gender non-conforming comrades, our trans comrades. It is an inclusive struggle. It is a struggle that undeniably requires all of us to come together and stand together for it. Am I right?
Yeah.
So before we start, I'm going to read this statement because it's written way more better than I can say it. Bear with me. Good afternoon, brothers and sisters and comrades. Welcome to our International Women's Day March and Rally organized by the Party for Socialism and Liberation. My name is Kirby. I'm a proud member of the PSL and the Justice Center of Barrio. This wind is getting on my nerves.
It's okay.
We, the women of the PSL, a grassroots organization comprised of leaders and activists, workers and students of all backgrounds, who are deeply involved in a wide range of struggle from local battles over affordable housing, to racist police brutality, to the fight for higher minimum wage and union rights, to women's health and global issues against imperialist war and environmental destruction, have come together today. We are deeply inspired by the militant traditions of revolutionary women who came before us. We are women from different ethnicities, students, youth, professionals, and working people, immigrants, queer, and trans folks. As for now, we have branches all over the United States, and that's a feat. That's amazing. We are marching today in East Harlem to honor International Women's Day, which is marked around the world with major protest strikes and gatherings to recognize the contributions and power of women in society and to advance the struggle for equality and liberation. Thank you. Earlier this week, 5.3 million women went on a one-day strike in Spain to demand women's equality on the job, in home, and society in general. In West Virginia right now, being led by women, the teachers have shut down the entire state for a week and won 5% raise. And they won their 5% raise. And another teacher strike is coming in Oklahoma. And we know we're about to walk out all over the country as well. Working class women are neglected, underpaid, and always under attack. The Trump administration has targeted basic reproductive and health rights of women as well as the rights of immigrants, oppressed communities, and workers in general. Basically, this system and Trump is not going to give it to us, and we have to fight for it to get whatever it is that we need. But we are powerful. Millions have already marched and spoken out. Last year, the hashtag #MeToo movement took over the airways, and brave women revealed the dark, violent side of the country's rich and famous men. For centuries, women have been told to be ashamed about abuse and keep quiet. But no more. It is not just celebrities either. Women like domestic workers, hotel workers are speaking up and getting organized. Not only for wages, for healthcare, but workplaces that have no abuse. This is the type of determination, organization, and solidarity we need right here in East Harlem. The Party for Socialism and Liberation, the Justice Center for El Barrio are working to build a movement to defend here in East Harlem and for the entire working class. Now it is time to organize city by city, block by block, to show the rich and the powerful, the millionaires that run both Republicans and Democrats, we have no veil over our eyes, that we have the real power. And that's why they're afraid of us, and that's why they oppress us. Everyone has a role to play, no matter your age, background, how busy you may be. There's many ways to plug into the movement, and now it's time to join us and get involved. It is our duty to be in all oppressed communities. And today, just so you can get a background of what we're doing, we're going to have a small rally here, and then we're going to go around different areas in the neighborhood and make stops and hear from our comrades as we speak about specific issues about those stops. It's not going to be a long march. It's okay. Hold on to somebody next to you. We'll make it together. I promise. I promise you. I promise you. Any questions? No? Okay. Dope. I'm so excited to be here. All right. Our first speaker is Yelena. And just to give some words about Yelena, Yelena is a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation and the Justice Center. Yelena is an OG in the movement. This struggle is intergenerational. And she scares me, so you know, you look at your elders to the side sometimes because they might whack you. Yelena's that one. And please welcome her as she speaks about affordable housing and the anti-gentrification struggle that we have done here in East Harlem. Please welcome Yelena.
Hi everyone. Hi. As she's saying, my name is Janina, and I'm a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. We are located at the Justice Center in El Barrio, around the corner of 116 and Park Avenue. The reason we are here today is to let everyone know that we are here to fight side by side with the members of the community in East Harlem. The wealth of the city, it is people, and the wealth of El Barrio are the Puerto Ricans, the African Americans, and the Mexicans. People who have lived here for generations. We have made this community that it is, but East Harlem is being taken away from us. This is not an accident. It is happening because politicians, developers, and investors want it to happen. They look at our community and see dollar signs, and we know that for sure. They look at our homes and see luxury apartments. They look at our schools and see private schools for their children. They pretend that we do not exist. In their eyes, we are just pawns to be moved. At the Justice Center, we have been involved in organizing around the neighborhood concerns. Some of us live here, others work here, and we face the same issues. This past fall, we collected more than 2,000 signatures from the neighborhood. And we took them, the petition presented at City Hall. It spoke against the rezoning in town halls where we face de Blasio and Viverito. We have marched and protested. Today we continue to build with our community because our fight is our fight. Because your fight is our fight. East Harlem has historically suffered from many social injustice. And right now, members of the community are going through a painful gentrification process. Behind the backs of the community, politicians pass a rezoning proposal that will bring luxury, high rises, and high rents all over East Harlem. City Council says that this rezoning is happening because we need to build affordable housing. But anyone with sense can see that they are not interested in building housing for the people who live here. If you just walk through El Barrio, you can see more and more buildings are being demolished instead of being renovated. Families and local businesses are being displaced. Instead of making real affordable housing for all, we all high rises being built for the wealthy. What about us? The average income in Harlem is about $30,000. How are we supposed to be able to live in this new facility facing buildings? What are we supposed to do about the skyrocketing rents? Already, thousands of people are being evicted or pushed out of El Barrio every year. As a woman of this community living in Harlem for so many years, now I am also facing gentrification in my own backyard. Some of my neighbors have already moved out. Where we can go when anything is unaffordable to us. We are going to stay and fight. There are many ways that we can fight to stop the gentrification of East Harlem. But we can only do it if people come together. We will fight for all city-owned lands, the empty public lots and buildings to be used for public use and housing that will be 100% affordable to people making the average income of $33,000 per year.
And less.
The right for the homeless and displacement population, quality social services, mental health services, and placement services should be prioritized as families and individuals thus lose their homes. Slumlords who have been hoarding empty and dilapidated buildings to be held accountable for their violation of tenant rights. Tenants' rights and services to stop landlords' abusive displacement strategies. We can't give up. We can't allow our tradition nor our culture that for decades we imprinted all over. Is Harlem we taken away? This place is us. As a woman from this community, I'm inviting all to join us to the fight to stay in our homes, in our neighborhood. Let's keep our history here. Keep our voices loud and clear to get our quality and affordable housing. That we are entitled to and keep our families united. Sí se puede. Woo!
And Yamina, I'm so proud of you for coming out and doing it. We're so proud of you. Thank you so much. Whose streets?
Our streets!
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 So next, we're gonna keep this program moving because I know we want to march, right? Well, I want to march. I don't know about y'all. Next, we're gonna have our sister Karina come up to the mic. Karina is an organizer within the Party for Socialism and Liberation and the Justice Center, and she'll be talking about her organizing work with reproductive health and justice, and share stories about the Latina organizers that she's been working with. Please give Karina a round of applause.
How's everybody feeling? Cold? We're cold, but are we tired? Are we afraid? Are we gonna give up? No, we're gonna be out here, we're gonna fight for our rights, we're gonna fight for our people. We're gonna fight when these politicians celebrate our homes, celebrate our rights to the highest bidder, right? I travel around the country organizing Latinas to fight for their reproductive health care, to fight for their rights, to fight for justice. And today I want to share some of the stories of the things that we're facing in our communities. But I know we're not alone. I know that healthcare and reproductive health care in particular is such a huge source of anxiety and stress for so many poor working class women of all nationalities. So many people have an outrageous story of being denied health care, of having the stress of bills, of healthcare bills that put them into poverty, of not being able to access the care that they need when they need it, with respect, with dignity. I want to share some of those stories that I've heard from the women I work with in rural Texas that demonstrate the damage that capitalism is wreaking in our communities. I've met undocumented women who risked their lives going to Mexico to get health care, risking their lives and permanent separation from their families to go to Mexico to get health care because they can't afford it here. Coming back, swimming across, fresh with stitches, to reunite with their families. Why? In the richest country in the world, do they have to risk their lives and separation from their children to go across back to Mexico to get basic health care in the richest country in the world? Why do they do this? They do it
here, because their jobs don't give them the benefits, because they can't take time off. For so many reasons that so many poor and working class people can't get the health care that they need when they need it in the richest country in the world. That is an injustice. That is a crime. I've talked to women who are forced to choose between medical care and meals for their children. They have to choose between birth control that they need for their endometriosis and food for their kids. And what do you think that they choose? The food for their kids. Now, I'm not saying this to lament the horrible stories that a few people in our communities live through. This isn't a few people. This is millions. These are the stories of millions of women, millions of poor and working class women of all nationalities. The real problem is that half of the population is at or near poverty. 150 million poor people in the richest country in the world who are being denied not only their right to health care, but the right to education, the right to a decent job, the right to housing, the right to benefits, the right to clean water, the right not to be harassed by racist police, the right not to have to bury their children. Those are the rights that are being denied to all of our communities. And it's very important for our communities to not think of themselves as something small. That I'm a Latina, I'm thinking about the 17% of us who are in this country, and we're fighting for our little 17%. No. We're part of the millions of poor and working class people of all nationalities that deserve rights, that deserve health care, that deserve justice and dignity in their communities. We're part of something big, something powerful, that if we're united, we can transform this city, we can transform this country and the world, in fact. Our people are dying from preventable diseases. They're dying from cervical cancer in the richest country in the world. This isn't because of a lack of resources. It isn't because of a lack of facilities or a lack of doctors. It's only because of capitalism. It's only because we have a system that is based on the profits of pharmaceutical companies and private insurance. That's the only reason our communities are suffering, needless suffering, because we believe in a system where the rights of 0.001% of the population are more important than the rights of the vast majority of us who live here, who make this country what it is, who make this country run. So we have to see ourselves as part of something big, part of something powerful. And that's what I want to share with you. That's the sentiment that I bring. Not only those horrible stories, but the fire and the power of our communities. When we start our meetings in the Rio Grande Valley in Texas, we say, ¿Cómo se sienten? And they say, poderosas. They say poderosas, because none of those things are going to hold them back. It doesn't matter if they try to pass another law to take away their health care, to take away their rights. We're going to keep fighting until we beat back this racist, sexist, patriarchal system that is arbitrarily making our community suffer for no good reason at all. So I want to ask you here, ¿cómo se sienten?
¡Poderosas!
¿Cómo se sienten?
¡Poderosas!
Así mismo, somos poderosas, somos parte de un pueblo poderoso, que nuestras comunidades merecen derechos, tenemos poder, pero el poder viene con la unidad. Y por eso, hermanas y hermanos, muchas gracias por estar aquí con nosotras, muchas gracias por luchar, por alzar los brazos por su comunidad y luchar. ¡Sí se puede! ¿Se puede?
¡Sí se puede!
¡Sí se puede!
¡Sí se puede!
Healthcare is a human right!
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 Thank you.
So every 28 hours in the richest country in the world, black and brown bodies are being killed by law enforcement. And when this happens, many of you who have already marched for Mike Brown, for Chantel Davis, for Sandra Bland, many of you have marched for Theron Smalls, for Kai Gurley. We know what's happening within our communities. But those logistics, just to get you out to the march, the folks that are organizing those are the mothers and the daughters and the partners of those folks who are murdered by police. And what they do every day is not have time to heal, to grieve their loved one. They move into the streets to organize for their loved one. Because it's something to be said when your loved one is stolen from you by people who get no consequences within the injustice system within this country. And even through that, most of the people that are leading this movement are women. And that's why we had to make space for Zaquana Albert, the partner of Daron Smalls, who was murdered in Brooklyn July 4th, 2016. This is a woman who's the mother of his child. And since 2016 to now, Zaquana has been organizing for justice for Daron. And even when the court slapped the family in the face by giving Wayne Isaacs a not guilty verdict, even though there was video footage of him aggravating and murdering Daron, Zaquana is still in the streets. Now she says she's nervous. So we need you to give her all the energy and all the positivity that you can, because it's not easy to talk about this. Zaquana was in the car with Daron when he was murdered. We could have been easily marching for her and him. Please welcome Zaquana.
Good afternoon, everyone. My journey to organizing, I wouldn't even call it organizing. I wouldn't want to say like from the women's model, is leadership development and just taking, like, having conversations within my community with other women and other families who went through the same thing that I did. And while I understand that organizing is very, very, very important, that we hit the streets, and I'm thankful for Kirby and Victoria and Tensia and all the rest of you guys that are able to hit the streets, but sometimes, like for me, I had to step back and take a look, because my life was in a shambles, and so I had to organize my own life. So I definitely learned that was more important. I don't even want to say more important, equally as important for my children, because I'm now learning that I'm going through the process that I have to organize or will perish or fade away. So I understand that I do need to get in these streets, and I do need to protest for women or women, mothers, everybody that's going through the same thing, and kind of take the sadness out of it and kind of take my power back and take the power back of the streets, because I just don't know what else to do. But it's definitely been a struggle for me, but I'm back and I'm here, and you guys will see me more in the streets.
If we don't get no justice, then they don't get no peace.
Please give Zaquana a warm round of applause. All right. Thank you. So next, we're going to have Marina from the East Harlem Preservation, and one of our community members leading the community land trust efforts in East Harlem. Listen, peace, land, and bread, family. Peace, land, and bread. Please welcome Marina.
So, you said before, whose streets? Our streets, right? So where we're standing at is 116th Street, which is the heart of El Barrio, East Harlem. And across the street, you might notice a sign honoring Vito Marcantonio. That is called the Lucky Corner, because that's where he was a very progressive Italian-American, supporting the Puerto Rican and working class community here in East Harlem. And that's called the Lucky Corner because all of these elected officials that have come to launch their campaigns have done so on that corner. And we're standing on this side because we're not there, all right? So this is not the Democratic Party's corner. This is the women's corner. This is the community corner. This is the corner where we helped collect 3,000 petition signatures from people who had no idea that this community was going to be rezoned, sold out. And they said no. We took those petitions to City Hall and we gave them to them, and they laughed at us and they tell us that we don't know what we're talking about, that it's ridiculous, but we do know what we're talking about. I'm all about the symbolism. If anybody knows me, I'm wearing my button here in solidarity with the women and people in Puerto Rico who also held a strike yesterday and continue to do so. My Puerto Rican sisters who are now in prison for their political beliefs, all of the women in this community, men, we're here, black, brown, white, Asian, together, las mujeres y los hombres, to fight back against the system and to tell them that we will not be moved. I'm also wearing a rose on my head that I wish was all red because, again, it's all about the symbolism. This is El Barrio. We are the roses, right? Somos las flores. And unfortunately, there is a whole bunch of weeds in the neighborhood. And back down in the South, we used to take those weeds and we used to eat them, right? So that's what we're going to do here in East Harlem. We're going to continue to fight against these elected officials who are selling us out. We are fighting for the community. We are fighting for housing. Housing is a human right. Yes. It is shameful that in this country, one of the richest countries, most powerful countries in the world, that we are denying people housing in their community. There is plenty of housing here, vacant buildings, vacant lots. We can live in tents, I don't care, give them to us. We are taking back the land, community land trust. We're not waiting for you, we're not waiting for your promises. Estamos aquí para luchar para la vivienda para la gente puertorriqueña, afroamericana, latino, blanco, lo que sea, haitiano. Estamos luchando para los trabajadores. Estamos aquí en esta esquina, nos encuentran en esta esquina el verano, hablando con ustedes sobre sus deseos que quieren ver en la comunidad, que quieren que hagan los líderes. Nosotros en la comunidad nos vas a ver aquí en el verano. So you will see us here in East Harlem again at this corner, the women's corner, the people's corner, okay? We'll be talking to you, we'll be surveying, we'll be asking you what you want us to help you gain and win. And also around the corner on Park Avenue is the Justice Center where the PSL holds a lot of wonderful activities every Friday, open mics, films. There's also an exercise place where Kathy Rojas will teach you for free on Saturdays on how to defend yourself. Mujeres, si quieren aprender a defenderse aquí en la calle, vayan al Centro de Justicia aquí en la Avenida de Park cada sábado, que Kathy te enseña, ¿verdad? Alright, so we are going to hear from other people and then we're going to take our streets back. Thank you, Marina, for killing it. With the flower, with the vibes. Okay. Alright. So one of the things I do want to acknowledge, I want to acknowledge all the revolutionary artists in the space. I want to acknowledge all the healers in the space. I want to acknowledge everyone who's handing out flyers, who's doing sign-ups, who's holding down the table, who's holding the banner, who's doing sound. Everyone who came out here in 39 degrees to stand with all of us. So please give yourselves a round of applause. This struggle is not an individualistic struggle. We're not here for honors. We're not here for badges, for medals. We're here for our people. And I just wanted to shout out everyone who's in the space, who's doing everything that they can for the struggle. So thank you so much. Now, I want to introduce Daisy, a Mexica, a doctora internationalista, the founder of the radical artist and activist collective Somalis. I may have said that wrong, please correct me. Semillas, thank you. Listen, my Haitian accent was not letting me take it on. She will speak to you about organizing work that she's doing with the EZLN and is about the presidential candidate, Machoy. Machoy? Okay. Marichu. Please welcome Daisy.
They tried to bury us.
They tried to bury us.
They didn't know we were seeds.
They didn't know we were seeds.
They tried to bury us.
They tried to bury us.
They didn't know we were seeds.
They didn't know we were seeds.
The moment
For the flourishing
of our people has arrived. La hora del florecimiento de los pueblos ha llegado. Esas son palabras de Marichu.
get on the presidential ballot. Now let it be clear, she did that as an independent, as a voice, as a representative of the SIG, a collective that teaches us that we must go beyond political parties to overcome patriarchy, to overcome all the Trumps of the world, to overcome all the Hillary Clintons of the world, porque no es el primer Trump. The principle of the SIG is to fight capitalism, imperialism, and they knew and they didn't want to win this election because they know that we have to go beyond that and organize from the bottom. Era un pretexto para organizar desde abajo y de la izquierda. It chose Marichui, an indigenous woman, a healer, a doctora like me. Some might call her a bruja, but I believe she's a revolutionary.
Yes.
And despite all of the attacks against her caravana, against journalists, against our comrades back in Mexico, a tragic accident that took the life of our compañera Eloisa, rest in power Eloisa, and even now there's other concejales in grave condition. Despite all of that, no funding, just organizing from the bottom. En los pueblos indígenas más marginados, Marichui was able to obtain the highest number of signatures, valid signatures, unlike her corrupt opponents. At this moment in Chiapas, in the autonomous revolutionary communities of the Zapatistas, we have the first international gathering of politics for art, sports, and culture for women in the struggle. This is going on as we speak. And I want to share some words of the intention of this gathering. Hermanas y hermanex. We are different, but we are equal. We have choice, hermanas and hermanex. Either we compete among us, and at the end of this gathering, we go back to our world realizing that nobody won. Or else we decide to unite, to fight against this patriarchal capitalist system, which continues to attack us with its violence, kill us, our bodies, ours, our families, and our communities, and our Mother Earth. So we must continue to rise, porque somos semillas, porque somos flores. From Chiapas to Palestine. We must check those wounded brothers who continue to hurt others, yes, but we must protect ourselves. Stop watering and nourishing weeds. Stop watering and nourishing machismo y machitos y cabrones. But don't stop watering and nourishing your soul, your spirit, your body, your divine temple. La revolución empieza en tu cuerpo. No tenemos que ser mamás, no tenemos que ser putas de cabrones de este sistema que no quiere sanar, que no quiere evolucionar. You don't have to do this emotional labor that you do not deserve. Stop watering the weeds. Stop nourishing machismo. Do not be a machista woman. Do not forget our hermanex, our trans brothers and sisters. The only way to kill patriarchy is by killing its roots. And yes, the only way is to rip it out from that root, from the bottom. So we know that the only way to do this is to continue to organize, to build these autonomy, to continue to march in the streets like we are doing here and not in Times Square, some colonized feminist movement. We've been fighting for so long, and we must continue to learn from Marichui and other indigenous elders. Todas somos Marichui. ¡Viva las mujeres! ¡Viva! ¡Viva la mujer indígena! ¡Viva! ¡Viva nuestras hermanas! ¡Viva! ¡Viva nuestros hermanos! ¡Viva! Let's continue to rise, porque somos semillas. Let's continue to flourish. Llegó la people is now. Viva con Marichuy! Llevar apoyo total, our solidarity to the SIG, to the Zapatista communities, and to all communities, revolutionary communities that have said enough is enough. I just wanted to note that we have here some guests from Mexico, compañeros de Mexico que han llegado. They were at the Commission of Human Rights, and we just want to give a shout out to these women and compañeros who continue to fight impunity in Mexico. Thank you for the space, to the PSL, to everyone who's come together. Let's continue to unite our struggles. Viva el internacionalismo.
Folks lived here before we were brought and sold here. And then we have to acknowledge that they have existed, that before us and before white supremacy and before the idea of racism existed, there were indigenous folks here. So I want to acknowledge the Lenape land that we're standing on.
Thank you, Daisy. Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention, that there are alternative systems and revolutionaries who are coming in and making space within politics, or within bourgeois politics. That's a whole nother conference, speak about whatever. I want to now bring up our comrade Elizabeth, who is one of the main organizers of this action, who's a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation, who will discuss the #MeToo movement.
Good afternoon, sisters and brothers. I'm so excited to be out here celebrating International Women's Day with you all. And, you know, while women have gained a lot through struggle, we know that we still have a long way to go before we reach true, full equality. And even if we've reached all the economic and legal equality as men, socially, we got a long way to go. And I'm gonna talk about what I mean by that. Because how many of us out here today have been catcalled? How many of us out here today have been harassed? How many of us out here today have been assaulted? And how many of us have felt the shame before we felt the rage? And how long do we have to go when we're whispering "Me Too" at school and at work before we can stand up and say something? Before we can reach out to someone that we can confide in, before we overcome our own shame to share our experiences. And it's been long enough, especially when we have stats such as 1 in 3 women have been a victim of physical violence or will be victims of physical violence by an intimate partner. That means someone you know. When 1 in 4 women experience sexual assault, and for our LGBTQ community, that number is nearly double. When 1 in 6 women will experience rape, when the leading cause of death in women is homicide. And while I'm out here today, and I'm gonna say that I'm inspired by the Me Too movement, that I'm inspired by the millions of women that have come out and have started to speak up, I'm also sad that we've had to share this burden and carry it on our shoulders for so long. And sometimes, again, that's out of fear and out of shame. And while Me Too has served as a platform to magnify what so many women have experienced for centuries, it brings to light an epidemic, an ever-present, unacknowledged epidemic of violence that is not only perpetuated by individuals, but by a system that makes us whisper and sob while we go unnoticed and predators go unpunished. A system that enables violence and violations to go on with impunity, that blames us when we speak out, that tells us to stay away from our predators so they can continue to play their sports, to be parents, to be uncles, and build their careers. A system that silences us and wills us into dark corners, into pits of depression, trauma, and self-loathing.
And it's not accidental that our courts, the police, the politicians do nothing to address the problem. And in fact, on a regular basis, the courts, the police, and the politicians are predators themselves and protectors of these predators. Sexual harassment and assault will be solved when we change this system, when we women are truly empowered and where our revolutionary power is unleashed. These predators will tremble in the face of true people's justice. Me Too is a spark. It is powerful enough to turn into a fight back movement against sexism, against patriarchy, and the capitalist system that benefits from the social, political, and economic inequality and violence against women. But it can be more if we make it more. Unless we shape it and turn it into solidarity, into struggle, until we turn our anger and face the injustices and turn that into a fight, into organizing, and into resistance. I said me too when I decided to join the struggle, when I decided to join so many hardworking people that are fighting to build a better world, because we can build a better world. I said me too when I decided to join the Party for Socialism and Liberation, when I said I'm a socialist and I will fight back to smash patriarchy and the capitalist system that only thrives off of sexism, racism, and poverty. I want to thank everyone for being out here today, and I want to say a quick chant before we start rolling out. So it goes like this. Stop your hatred, stop your violence, women and girls won't be silent. Stop your hatred, stop your violence, women and girls won't be silent. Stop your hatred, stop your violence, women and girls won't be silent.
When women's rights are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When women's rights are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When trans rights are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
When trans rights are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back!
here. And for those who don't know, they both were LGBTQ black socialist revolutionaries. We stand with the LGBTQ community in full solidarity. And with that, we have our comrade Gabby, who's gonna come up to the mic and speak about her struggles within the LGBTQ community and our solidarity with that community. Please welcome Gabby.
Thank you. Audre Lorde wrote, "To whom do I owe the power behind my voice? To whom do I owe the symbols of my survival? To whom do I owe the woman I've become?" Audre, who was a radical lesbian writer from Harlem, had a deep impact in my life. She was one of the many LGBTQ revolutionaries that I credit for the power behind my voice and the woman I've become, whose work is a symbol of my survival. And the reason I'm proud to be a queer Afro-Latina. I feel proud to speak to you today in front of her image and in her memory. Under capitalism, the exploitative economic system we live under, political gains and victories come from our constant collective struggle. Every freedom we enjoy is owed to the fight of ordinary people, like me, like you, like the militant transgender and gay performers and clubgoers at the Stonewall Inn who defended themselves against a violent police raid and reignited a resistance movement in the 60s. And in that spirit, I speak to you today. LGBTQ youth, many of whom are subjected to homophobic and transphobic violence starting in the home, make up 40% of the runaway and homeless population of youth in the country. And running away is considered a status offense in many countries, which puts these minors, these youth, in contact with the police system, with the prison system at a very young age. And even as we get older, securing housing doesn't necessarily become easier. Because in 28 states, there is no law that actually prevents discrimination, prevents housing discrimination and work discrimination for LGBTQ people. And if and when we become homeless as a result of this kind of discrimination, this quality of life policing, right? So laws against laying and sitting in public spaces, panhandling, loitering, all of these things subject us to police harassment, put us at a risk for incarceration. So not only is there a lack of housing and work security for us, and lack of protection against police, there's also a lack of unbiased and guaranteed health care. That's right. On top of everything, many of these LGBTQ laws that are passed year after year, there was over 100 just last year alone. Many of them target our right to health care. So this is our reality, right? We're facing police violence, we're facing discrimination, we're denied access to the most necessary human needs. Our safety, our lives are in constant threat from the state, from state violence and interpersonal violence. Because let's not forget that hate crimes are also a huge risk for us. That's right. Last year alone, there were 28 reported murders of LGBTQ people. Over half, and reported is a key word, right? Because there's so many that we don't know about. And over half of those people were trans women, black and brown working class trans women. It's an attack. Before last year, I could count on one hand all the people that I had come out to. I was afraid. And rightfully so. But last year, I met some incredible people through organizing, through the Party for Socialism and Liberation. Queer and trans people who are at the forefront of all different struggles, who had dedicated their lives to the idea that people should not only be surviving, they should be living well, under protection of their government, and with their human needs secured, guaranteed. Not just waiting for some mildly progressive legislation to be passed and then overturned later. That's right. By the Democrats, by the Republicans. I've learned to be unapologetic and direct about who I am. But I've also learned that under capitalism, none of us will ever be free. Capitalism relies on anti-women policies, anti-trans policies, racist policies. That way, wealth can always remain in the hands of the few white, straight men that it has always belonged to. And not the people who make it. The people who need it most. Us. We have to remember that before capitalism, our people lived in classist communities where labor wasn't divided based on our genders, on our sexuality. It was based on our ability and our willingness to survive collectively. And queer and trans people were free to exist as they do, because the family wasn't defined by man, woman, and child, and our sexuality and our gender wasn't defined by biological measures that were created by a few men, right? So truly embracing my sexuality meant rejecting capitalism and turning to a revolutionary life of organizing. To fight the root cause of the oppression I face and that we all face. I fight for liberation through socialism. Socialism, a system in which workers own the resources and the means of producing goods and form a classist society that could actually abolish institutions that keep us poor, that keep us discriminated against, that keep us displaced, incarcerated, and in constant fear. We don't deserve to live like this. It's a hard struggle, but it's a worthy one. And for that reason, I'm proud. I'm proud to be queer, I'm proud to be black, I'm proud to be Latina, I'm proud to be an immigrant, and I'm proud to be a socialist speaking to you here today.
For the next two speakers while we stand in front of this Puerto Rican Cuba Solidarity mural. When we talk about women's struggle, we acknowledge that it's an international struggle, that women all over the world are struggling for equality under this imperialist capitalist system. And that's why it is our duty here to break our chains and stand in solidarity with those women everywhere. Can we agree on that? Yes! So I would like to welcome Iris. Iris is speaking on behalf of the Puerto Rican National Liberation Movement, and she will speak about the Puerto Rican struggle. Please give her a round of applause.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you very much to the PSO for inviting me here. As you all know, Puerto Rico has been a colony of the United States for almost 120 years. And since the beginning, women have been bearing the brunt of imperialism by the United States in Puerto Rico and by colonization. We have had many women that are political prisoners. As of today, we have two. One is Ana Belén Montes. Ana Belén Montes has been incarcerated for, I believe, 23 years. She's a Puerto Rican political prisoner. And she was incarcerated for being in solidarity with the revolution in Cuba. Okay? The other one is Nina Dros Francos, which last May 1st, International Working Working Class Day, International the Proletariat Day, Día del Proletario. In Puerto Rico, was taken into custody and accused of trying to burn down a bank. About 6 months ago, there was a devastating, catastrophic weather-related event, which was Hurricane Maria. Since then, again, our women have been receiving the most brutal attacks to their dignity and to their safety. When you are born and you live in colonialism, and under colonialism you experience violence every single day. Institutional violence in Puerto Rico is ridiculous. The fact that still 6 months after a hurricane in Puerto Rico, over 500,000 people are still without power, it is unconscionable. There are people that are dying. There's over 1,000 unaccounted deaths that the government denies to acknowledge, and there's over 150 Boricuas missing, and we don't know where they are. The political attacks against the Puerto Rican Liberation Movement, many to women in the Puerto Rican Liberation Movement, continue to be an issue and a problem by the oppressive forces, the federal government in Puerto Rico. March 8th of this year, a couple of days ago, there was a general strike which was a success. Under the theme, si nosotras paramos, el país se detiene. If we stop, if the women stop, the nation stops. It was a success because it was the first major manifestation after the huge catastrophic event that happened. The women in Puerto Rico are asking for universal health care. They're asking for the public schools and a public education of quality to be continued and to be improved. We do not want charter schools in Puerto Rico. We want public health hospitals to continue to stay open and to function properly for our people, for the poor working people. There has been a workers' reform that was passed last year by the colonial government that has pretty much taken away all of the workers' rights. In Puerto Rico, a colony of the United States. Again, I cannot say that too many times. The women are more than 50% of the working force. Most of those women are single mothers. They have taken away their rights for pensions. They have taken away their rights for being paid a livable wage, not even the minimum wage of the federal government. It is work at will or at will work. And they're paying about $4.25 an hour. The women in Puerto Rico, after the hurricane, have experienced an increase in rape, in sexual harassment, not only by the U.S. military within the first couple of weeks, but also by these so-called aid workers that are coming from outside. We want to let you know that if you want to stand in solidarity with Puerto Rico, we appreciate it, but you are not going to abuse the dignity of our people. We are also, the women of Puerto Rico are saying that estamos hartas del sistema. We are tired of this colonial repressive system in Puerto Rico. Y estamos puestas para el problema. And we are ready to rumble. Please do not take your eyes off the issues of Puerto Rico. The women of Puerto Rico are tired of the colonization. We want it to end. Right now, as of yesterday, we do not want any more colonization, because you're not only colonizing our lands, you're colonizing our bodies, you're colonizing our minds, you're colonizing our children, you're colonizing everything. That's right. And you're putting us in a situation that we have no other choice but to fight back, and we will. equality. We want reproductive health also in Puerto Rico to be taken seriously. We want our sexual workers respected. We want our trans women respected. We want our lesbian women respected. We want the LGBTQI plus community to be respected because they are part of our nation. And they are part of the fabric of what makes our society. We are no longer going to accept that this respect of these neoliberal policies that this country is trying to impose on us. We are tired of the Democratic Party invading our spaces and taking over our movements. We are tired of the NGOs coming in and benefiting on our people's pain. We are going to get you. Do not get it twisted. What you do not want is all those displaced Puerto Ricans that are here in New York, in Chicago, in Philadelphia, everywhere else that are coming after this hurricane to unite with our brothers and sisters, white, poor, black, Palestinian people, all of these beautiful people that are here present and that you are representing today. Because we're going to come and get you. Because if you don't get out of our land, we're going to come into your land as we're coming, and we're going to continue to organize the communities, and we're coming from you, from the bottom up.
You are amazing. We are ready to rumble. That is absolutely correct. Before I bring up our next speaker, Dottie, who is a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation, who's going to speak about the solidarity trip that she took to Palestine with Existence is Resistance. One of the things that I want to say about Palestine is when the Black Lives Matter movement erupted, Palestinians saw how Ferguson was getting tear gassed, and they sent messages via social media to activists here in the States on how to fight against tear gas and police brutality to continue the movement. And that's why we took time and space to give it to the Palestinian people. So please welcome Dottie.
Hi everybody, can everybody hear me? I'm actually not Palestinian, but I had the pleasure of taking that trip this summer. But I want to start by saying that my name again is Dottie, and I'm a proud member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation, operating from an amazing space right here in El Barrio, the Justice Center in El Barrio on 116 at Park Avenue, across the street from La Marqueta. I want to also start by saying that I see people from so many places, so many ages. Kids are out here. We have people from all ages out here, and it reminds us that it isn't critical for everyone to join this fight in order for us to win. So please, if you're walking in the street and we're saying something that you might be curious about, take a few minutes to hear what we got to say today, because there's a lot of amazing people coming up to this mic to say amazing things. So, last summer I had the fortune to go to Palestine, where I got to experience firsthand the impact of war, imperialism, and occupation. Now we are 2 months away from the Trump administration opening a U.S. embassy in Jerusalem, a capital we know only to be part of Palestine and not Israel. We are living in a time and with an administration that is unapologetic in their abuses of not only women in the U.S., but also women and people all around the world. War shapes the current world we live in. Over the last 30 years, budgets for every program that serves the needs of people like social services, including food stamps, Medicaid, and others, have been slashed or cut completely. The only programs that remain well-funded are those for war, domination, and incarceration, increasingly incarceration. In 2015, military spending accounted for 54% of the federal budget, 54%, more than everything else combined. And I'm going to say it loud for those, la migra, la policía, la misma porquería. There's some smiling faces on these corners. I'm going to say it loud so I can make sure they hear me nice and loud and clear. Many feminists suggest that constant war exists because men are in charge. But we've seen what happens when women like Madeleine Albright and Hillary Clinton are in power. What happens? More war, more imperialism. Even abuses against other women. We've seen that when they have the opportunity to defend women and rise us up, they push us further down. So what does that say? destruction from Iraq to Libya to Honduras. War is systematic, no matter the gender of the politicians. The capitalist classes of the world are competing for markets to exploit. The goal? To create more wealth and more profit for the capitalists. Fighting against war and imperialism is a female and a feminist issue. It is a women's issue because women in war-torn countries are denied access to basic humanitarian living conditions. Women in imperialist countries like the US watch their tax dollars that they work hard for fund military expansions, not what they want their money spent on. It is not a secret that the US has handpicked quote-unquote leaders and influenced elections like what happened with the coup and that removed socialist leader Salvador Allende. The US government has supported military forces that occupy and abuse other countries. We can see their heavy financial support of Israel and their armed forces for just one example of that. The United States has a legacy of colonizing other countries. And we look at Puerto Rico, which is yet to receive aid and reparations. So they want to take the land and they want to take the resources, but they don't push shit back. We are dealing with the deliberate attacks against immigrants by ICE and our government that has not put the protection of the people who have been displaced due to our own imperialist interventions. Just yesterday, I saw a video, and many of you may have seen it, of a mother ripped away from by ICE from her 2 children. And I thought to myself, it takes a special kind, and I wrote some nice words, but it takes a special kind of big motherfucker, sorry, to do this job. So we must understand how our sisters are under attack around the world. We have to stand in solidarity with all our sisters. We must understand the connections between our own police department and our military being used to carry out oppressive laws and attack innocent people. Women have always fought against the imperialist war machine. From Vietnam to Cuba to Palestine, we as socialists and as feminists seek to overcome war and build a new society based on solidarity and cooperation. We call this socialism. So join us again in the Justice Center in El Barrio on 116 and Park Avenue. Sin las mujeres no hay revolución. Thank you.
I'm a member of the Party for Social Liberation. I also do a lot of police brutality work in New York City. I had the honor of working with Akai Gurley's family, Daron Spawns' family, Nicholas Haywood's family, all these families from New York City and Brooklyn, and working through these families through their trauma. And the reason why we're here on 103 and settlement is because there's a precinct not too far from here. Right there. It's right across the street. And every precinct is a precinct. And the reason why I say that is because, as I said earlier, every 28 hours our people are being murdered by the police. Whether we know of it or not. And most times we do not know. So that means that somebody died last night. That means that somebody's getting harassed and cuffed right now. And that means that somebody's going to be killed tomorrow. And it's not an isolated situation. It's not a bad judgment call. Police officers are trained to shoot first and ask questions later. Every day this is happening. So when we talk about occupation in Palestine, look around us. Because we're being occupied right now. And why don't we hear about women who are murdered? See, we say the names of our brothers that are stolen a lot. If I say a name right now, we're here 20 names that have male names. We're here Sean Bell. We're here Mike Brown. we'll hear Eric Garner, but we don't hear our sisters' names. We don't hear our trans sisters' names. We don't hear our queer families' names. And the reason why is because these things are not even being documented. So nobody took time to look into what's happening to us and think it's important enough to be reported. And when we talk about what's happening in the precinct, and when we talk about violence, we talk about sexual violence as well. Because when these police officers are still stopping and frisking, it's not over. They're touching our bodies. A 15-year-old girl was raped in Brooklyn by 2 white police officers while she was arrested in the vehicle. But we don't talk about it, we don't hear about it. So it's not just shootings we have to worry about at the hands of the NYPD. It's sexual violation that we have to worry about in the hands of the NYPD. That's why it's women's duties to be in the front lines against the police. Because we believe in a system where there is no police. There's no reforms that can take place that will change this situation. There is no good cop or bad cop in this situation because they're all trained the same. And that's why we said we're going to stand here and speak about this situation. But most importantly, we're going to talk about our women that are affected by this situation. One of the things I wanted to say when we were standing on 116th is that there's no shame in your body, that you do not deserve to be catcalled in the street, that you do not deserve to be sexually harassed in the street, no matter what you wear, what you look like, or what you say. By any man, let alone a police officer that your tax dollars pay for to occupy our communities. So I want to take a second, if I can find my cell phone, and I want to say some names of these sisters that we lost. Because we're going to acknowledge our people and our family. And we're going to honor them as they should be honored. Because to us, they're not just a newscast. They're not just a social media post. They're eternal. As long as we're here, we're going to continue to fight for them. Is that okay? Yes. So I'm going to say a name, and it's not many names because we got to keep moving. And you're going to repeat it. Alberta Shufrill. Rakia Boyd. Chantal Davis. Shelly Frey. Kayla Moore. Kim Livingston. Miriam Carey. Michelle Cosivoire. Tanisha Anderson.
Black lives matter! 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 No
And we'll have Julia speak. Julia is part of the Coalition of Immaculate Workers in Florida to speak to you about the work that she's been doing. Please give her a round of applause.
Gracias, ¿cómo están?
Bien, bien.
How's everyone doing?
Soy Julia, soy parte de las trabajadoras agrícolas de la Florida. También estamos aquí en solidaridad y ya que próximamente también vamos a tener una acción grande que empieza mañana aquí en Nueva York. Pues amemos la lucha, hay que acabar esa injusticia que hay en los lugares de trabajo, hay que acabar esa acoso, violencia en los lugares de trabajo para que no dejemos nuestra dignidad en el lugar de trabajo.
So we know the struggle, we've been struggling, and it needs to end, the harassment and assault in the workplace, the injustice in the workplace, and we need to have dignity in our workplace.
Por eso hay que unirnos y luchar para acabar esas injusticias. Y especialmente para las trabajadoras agrícolas, por muchos años nunca se ha escuchado de que salga a la luz todo lo que ha pasado durante años. Así que ahora ya se ha levantado esa voz, gracias también a todos los grupos de diferentes lugares que se han levantado hablando sobre estos problemas.
So we need to unite to fight this injustice, and the story of women farm workers has not been told for a long time, and that's why now we're raising our voices to share this story. And thank you all so much for the support from all the different groups.
Y por último, darle la invitación de que nuestra acción empieza mañana, una huelga de 5 días, en la cual vamos a estar enfocados, principalmente nosotros nos enfocamos en corporaciones, porque ellos compran una cantidad muy grande de productos y ellos ponen el precio más bajo del mercado. Por esa razón, nunca ha subido los salarios de los trabajadores agrícolas.
So we want to invite you all to participate in our action that's starting tomorrow. It's a 5-day hunger strike or fast. And we're putting pressure on corporations to sign a fair food agreement that would basically guarantee higher wages and an end to harassment and violence in the workplace for many workers.
Hi everyone, as was already said, I'm Kathy. I'm a member of the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I'm from Queens. My family, Queens, one person. Gabby, you be in Queens all day. All right. My family is from Colombia, from Cali, Colombia. Both my parents are immigrants. I'm a teacher at a school where all of my students are immigrants. And it's really, I think that being born into a family that lived in fear daily, fear of deportation, fear of calling the police, not knowing who would help them, and now teaching students that live in fear daily because of the conditions that they live under. Really, it's crazy to see how the many ways this system destroys us. And with that being said, I guess I want to start saying, immigrant women and children are one of the most oppressed people in the United States. La mujer inmigrante es una de las mujeres más oprimidas y más explotadas en todo el país. First, we're victims to U.S. imperialism in our countries. We see this with the free trade agreements, los tratos de libre comercio, that they impose in our countries, that they've imposed in Mexico, in Colombia, where they lower the minimum wage. They take a whole bunch of women to work in these factories and pay them less than minimum wage, leave them susceptible to be assaulted sexually in the workplace. They take all of the resources from our communities the same way that the Corona company, the Corona beer company right now is taking all the water from the Mexican people, leaving Mexican people without water to drink. And when the people that rebel, the U.S. is happy. They're happy to fund the military that's there, right? They're happy to fund the military that is going to repress all of the rebellions in our countries, right? That's why the U.S. has funded the Mexican military, which killed 43 students in Ayotzinapa. That's why the U.S. military has trained and funded the Colombian paramilitary that has killed over 300 social and political leaders just this year. That's why when Coca-Cola company workers try to rebel and organize, and when they do unionize, 3,000 of them since the 1990s have gone missing. Because the U.S. destroys us. They destroy our communities. They take our lands, and when we fight back, they try to destroy us. But still we fight.
That's right.
So once they destroyed our homes, once they destroyed our lands, we're left with very little options. And then our families find themselves coming here, coming to the U.S., only to face the same exploitation. Women of Latin American descent only make 56 cents to every dollar the white man makes. 77% of Latin American women report being sexually assaulted at their workplace. We can't even work in peace. We work in places where we have to smell toxic fumes. My mother has been a housekeeper for over 20 years, could barely walk the street without covering her nose from all the allergies that toxic fumes have, the ways that the toxic fumes have deteriorated her body, okay? We destroy ourselves, our bodies, to work for this system, to try to make it, to live. And then we come home to find out that our communities are being rezoned, that people are being kicked out of their buildings, that we may not have a place to call home the next morning. But still we survive. And we survive because of unity, the same way that we have been surviving all of these years, because we've learned to take care of each other and we've learned to fight back. For years, for over 400 years, they've tried to kill us, they've tried to commit genocides, and we're still here. And the system that makes women's bodies seem like they are just means to be, just objects to be used by men, and to join a movement like the Party for Socialism and Liberation that is trying to create a new system, a system based on the human need, on what we need collectively, and that system is called socialism. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido.
¿Se ve? ¿Se escucha? ¿Se ve? ¿Se escucha?
Mujeres en la lucha.
¿Se ve? ¿Se escucha? Mujeres en la lucha. ¿Se ve? ¿Se escucha?
As we know, those revolutionaries started as a response for community safety and community solidarity when this system turned their back on this community. We had to stop here and acknowledge history. They say, if you don't know where you came from, you can't know where you're going. And one thing that we say about the Young Lords, that we know about the Young Lords, in solidarity with the tradition of the Panthers and the Young Berets, is that they were a communist organization. They stood 100% for the liberation and nationalism of their people and all oppressed people, and fought for the rights of all of us as workers. And they knew that it's not under capitalism that these things will happen. It's not little tinks that could change the system to make it better for our people. They understood we needed something completely new, completely different. And so that's why we came here to say ashe to our ancestors and have them here with their energy to welcome us and give us solidarity in our struggle to continue to fight. So with that, I want to welcome Gammy. Oh yeah, you about to kill it. Don't even look at me like that. I want to welcome Gammy, who is not only an amazing visual artist, who is not only an amazing organizer who helped coordinate this action, but is now taking a different turn in workers' rights and is working for a union now. Please welcome Gammy.
So in 1969, almost 50 years ago from today, the Young Lords has occupied this church right here, calling it the People's Church. They immediately set up programs like the free breakfast program, tuberculosis testing, educational programs, and any other services that the people needed. The Young Lords, a socialist communist organization, had a 13-point program, and point 8 says, "We oppose capitalists and alliances with traitors. Puerto Rican rulers or puppets of the oppressor do not help our people. They are paid by the system to lead our people down blind alleys, just like the households of poverty pimps who keep our communities peaceful for business, or the street workers who keep gangs divided and blowing each other away. We want a society where the people socialistically control their labor.
Come on now.
Venceremos." Under capitalism, the worker is seen as an item, a very cheap item at that. Something that can be easily replaced when damaged or when not meeting expectations. Not as humans with needs and wants. But we know we are more than that, right? We know we're more than that. We know that we are more than just our jobs. We know that we are powerful, hardworking people who deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. Every benefit that we have today in our jobs, we have fought for. Not one thing has been given to us. From things that we have taken for granted, like the 8-hour workday, to things that make our life a little better, like minimum wage, and the recently passed Family and Medical Leave Act. No politician or CEO just woke up one day feeling like workers deserve a minimum wage or workers deserve better working conditions or whatever. That was something that we, the workers, have fought for, and unions have fought for. Where people strike and took the streets, like the teachers in West Virginia. We fought overtime. We fought for overtime pay. We fought for days off. We must remember that if the working conditions are bad, we, the workers, are the ones that have the power to change it. Because we, the workers, are the ones that generate the money. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon and the second richest man in the world, doesn't make shit. Every product there is made by a worker, it's packed by a worker, and it's delivered by a worker. If you look at any product that you own, it has been touched by thousands of families, by thousands of workers, just to end up into your hands. Workers literally create all of the wealth. And workers have the power to change the world. When we come together to organize, we are able to demand things like better working conditions, a living wage, and affordable health care. Unions give the workers a say and hold real power in what their contracts look like, and are finally able to hold those bosses accountable. Strikes are a tool used by workers to put pressure on the company until their demands are met, and have been very successful. The victory of the West Virginia teacher strike inspired Oklahoma workers, and now teachers in Arizona and Kentucky will follow suit. This is the power of unions. This is the power of the people. When we win, we inspire others to take action and improve the lives of more people. So socialists have always been on the forefront of the labor struggle. From organizing, yes, we've been there, we're still here. From organizing tens of millions into industrial unions during the Depression to leading the struggle for the 8-hour workday. We as socialists believe that those who create the wealth should own the wealth and decide how it is used. That's right, it's common sense. This is why we fight for every single improvement in the lives of working people, to ensure that the working families aren't trampled on. Aren't trampled on like rats over there, trampling them. The struggle of socialists is the struggle of all workers, advancing the rights of working and poor people at any cost. Say this with me. Aquí, aquí, allá, allá, el pueblo vencerá.
El pueblo